Wednesday, April 16th, 2025. Let's take a look at the best of X. We have from JA_Martoon here. Since April 11th, aggressive buyers have dominated Binance futures. Taker sellers have struggled to gain the upper hand. A clear sign of aggressive positioning by bulls. Okay, it just so happens with this particular video that there's a lot of things that I've seen on X that would communicate and provide evidence for some short-term bullishness. And another interesting thing that I'll point out is that a lot of the bearish or the really bearish accounts that I follow, they have also turned short-term bullish. And I shared this chart last week during my live stream with Devin, Bitcoin priced in the VIX, and you can see a revisiting of this trend line. And what do we have here? I mean, we have a massive deflationary crisis concern in 2015. We have the COVID crash in 2020. We have the Japan carry trade fiasco in August of 2024. And then the peak of the trade wars, of the tariff fears, which is hopefully the peak of the fears at least behind us. And so can we expect some short-term bullishness? It seems very likely that that's the case. We'll see. But more charts, more things showing some evidence of short-term bullishness. We have from Cena_21st. I shared a chart of his yesterday. The risk to reward setup has materially improved. Short-term holders are still sitting on an average unrealized loss of minus 10%, a condition conducive to a bottoming pattern. Short-term holder MBRV has returned to the deep value range comparable to the 2023 and 2024 lows. And you can see where MVRV is short term. Now there's a difference. Now I do want to, this is a chart that I pay a lot of attention to, the MVRV Z-score. This is all holders, every holder in Bitcoin's history. Where are they? How profitable are they? And then of course this includes Bitcoin that has been lost. This includes Bitcoin from extreme hodlers, but also short-term holders. This chart in particular is the short-term holder MVRV Z-score, which is where they are in terms of, are they in profit or are they not? And right now they are not in profit. We can see similar local bottoms with this. In fact, they've gotten even lower in terms of profitability for short-term holders than at any point in the 2023 market or the 2024 market. So again, perhaps some short-term bullishness. We can see here, I shared this chart yesterday from Glassnode, this top cohort here, first buy, the short-term holders, they've been selling off pretty aggressively lately and they're still down. And short-term holder activity is, you shouldn't be surprised by this, but the number one indicator as to what's going to happen short term with the price of Bitcoin. And so the fact that they've been so red lately is an evidence. It's evidenced by recent price action. But you can see it's cooling off a little bit, and it may be that we are at the end of a pretty significant sell-off for Bitcoin, again, for the short term. So anyway, something that's interesting, a few interesting little tidbits, but moving on. Just in, Trump administration says U.S. may buy Bitcoin using tariff revenue. So, okay, everything is something, right? There's some exciting stuff, some things to be excited about on a long enough timeline with this, using tariff revenue to buy Bitcoin. I think that I've mentioned this in a previous video a month or so ago in terms of what they're doing with the strategic reserve. So we were hoping that a Bitcoin strategic reserve would be announced and the United States was going to buy 200,000 Bitcoin a year for the next 5 years. That would be extremely bullish because of how illiquid the supply is. I mean, good luck buying 1 million Bitcoin, United States government. But then when Trump came out and announced his plans for a Bitcoin strategic reserve, his communication was essentially that all they're going to do is just not sell the Bitcoin that they have. And they already have about 200,000 Bitcoin. And so, okay, that was actually quite a disappointment. So where do we go from here with that? Well, it's a big thing. It's a big deal that I really think it would be a bad idea for the United States government to buy Bitcoin through excessive money printing, because I think that would give the next administration some incentive to try to undo a lot of the things that Trump did during this term, or the next liberal Democrat administration at least, to undo a lot of the things that Trump did during this term. And so what would they do? Maybe they would sell that Bitcoin in the strategic reserve, and that would have a significant effect on the price. So far, okay, I've been critical of some things. I've been positive with some things. I've been probably mostly positive towards what I've seen with the Trump administration, believe it or not. But I think that the way that they're handling the strategic reserve talk is actually pretty phenomenal. So props to where it's due. Love him or hate him, I really don't care. It's just I'm going to judge his actions based off of what I think is right or wrong. And I think that this is potentially a good idea. So moving on, more short-term potential bullishness. We have MSTR, MicroStrategy. There has been a lot of interest, a heavy dose of open interest in buying $400 calls with the MSTR stock ticker. MicroStrategy, if you don't know, last I checked was at like $325. This call expires Thursday. Usually it expires Friday, but we have Good Friday, so the stock market is closed this Friday. And so the idea that there would be so much interest in this, it communicates something. And what would that thing be? Well, Jerome Powell is speaking very soon, and perhaps I think what the strategy is here with MicroStrategy, with this level of open interest, is they're thinking, and I wouldn't be surprised if this ended up being the case, that Jerome Powell is going to be speaking in increasingly dovish terms when it comes to lowering rates, when it comes to potentially initiating quantitative easing. And so there's a possibility that after Jerome Powell speaks, that the markets are going to pop off pretty heavily. So it's a gamble for sure, but who knows? I'm not too excited about keeping my shorts open leading up to his speech, because we saw the opposite happen in December. We saw in December at the Fed meeting, Jerome Powell get up and speak in unexpectedly hawkish terms, in terms of like, no, we're not going to continue lowering rates for the foreseeable future, for the next few months at least. And the market dumped really hard after that. So the opposite could be in play here tomorrow. And I think that that's what we're seeing with potentially with MicroStrategy shooting off aggressively over the next few days. So we'll see. Make a note of that. Okay. Moving on to other areas of crypto. We are still in this incredible what happened with Mantra DAO, trying to put the pieces together, trying to figure that out. I shared some thoughts on that in the video 2 days ago. And well, here's an account not telling. I called the OM scam, and now I'm calling the next scam checks. I've kind of heard of this, barely heard of this ticker. I looked it up to see if I could short it. I am not able to short it, at least on Bitmart or BitUnix or BingX. Links in the description of my video here. But checks is a complete scam, and the next coin to go down 90%. When this is over, whenever that is, whether that's now or at a later date, there's going to be lots and lots of cryptocurrencies that dump really hard, really aggressively at random points. And so maybe checks is the next one. What are the reasons to be careful with checks? Partnerships with companies, quote unquote partnerships with companies no one has ever heard of. Just like with OM, I asked the top RWA crypto founders about OM, and they all said they didn't tokenize anything, no institutional adoption. It's all artificially being pumped by a Dubai-based group, plus the team owns the majority of the supply. I asked the top RWA crypto founders about checks, and they all said, we work together with all RWA protocols, and checks never reached out, never see them at conferences, and they never reached out to us. They are running a very sketchy operation. Number 3, 100% of coins in circulation, and the team owns the majority of them, just like OM. And since it's 100% in circulation, they have no incentive to keep building in the next bear market. So we have this balance of like, I'm not in love with highly inflationary cryptos like SUI or SAY. I think that fundamentally SUI and SAY are fine. There's lots of examples I could give, but if there's no inflation, what are they doing to incentivize development. What are they doing to incentivize developers? How are they building? What incentives do they have to continue building? And with cryptos that are 100% in circulation, you have to be mindful of that. Now, there's an entire different category with meme coins. It's just we know what meme coins are. We know that they're going to pump really hard and then dump really hard. But with utility, they're trying to communicate that there's something else. And if they're 100% in circulation, where are they going to get the incentive to continue building up this project? It's something that is a very valid concern with every utility crypto that is 100% in circulation. So checks. Be on the radar. Keep that on your radar if you own any. Honestly, I would just sell it right now. Let me read the last one here. The founders have been posting many selfies, showing off many designer items, showing me they recently got quote unquote new money and have every intention to liquidate everyone at the right time. Stay away. Don't say I didn't warn you. So you know what? I don't know if I follow this account. I just saw this. I was very interested. I'm going to hit that follow button, not telling. Thank you for the warning. Let's see what else we have. Moving into a broader economic perspective, weekly global liquidity. So liquidity is positive. Again, lots of things that I've seen on X communicate some short-term bullishness. Right now, the two main drivers for liquidity are China and the dollar. Arguably, the dollar has more impact globally since DXY has dropped to a 3-year low of 99.02. I covered that in yesterday's video. I shared a chart from somebody else on X, and I always pay attention to DXY. The DXY is under 100 for the first time in 3 years. That is not something that we should be ignoring. And yet the market is not responding positively to the DXY dumping, which it usually does. So something's got to give, something's a liar. I tend to think that the DXY is usually the one telling the truth. So we'll see how that goes. But this opens the door. The DXY dumping opens the door for global easing. In China, the tariffs are playing a key factor in their stimulus. We saw Trump backing down after bond yields spike, so it's likely that any further surge could be Bitcoin sniffing out a Fed intervention, a temporary QE-like measure to bring yields down. Global liquidity, very much something that we should be paying attention to. There's another chart here, and you can see weekly change in global liquidity, that it's mostly been positive lately. I mean, in 2022, it was a significant drop, and we're not seeing that happen as much right now. So, moving on. Not all bullishness in this video, I'm sorry to say. This signal has just triggered for the 4th time since 2007. The last 3 times it coincided with vicious market declines. Is this time different? A thread. I'm not going to look at the entire thread, but let's click on this chart here, gold/silver ratio and the S&P 500. So you want to read this thread from Bravos Research. They put a lot of charts on here, and I think it's a team of people. Some of them are very bullish short term, others are bearish, but something to pay attention to at least. When we see gold, so the messaging here is when you see gold outperform silver, that is a time to be concerned, okay? Because gold is it's a safe haven asset, whereas silver is not as much. Silver is kind of like the gambling. Gold's been pumping a lot. I want to buy silver because it's a smaller price, just the same thing with Bitcoin and altcoins. And so the last 3 times that gold spiked in comparison to silver, what's followed has been not too exciting times. You can see Black Monday I don't remember this, Black Monday in 2011. All right, I was thinking Black Friday in 1987. You can see 2008, the great financial crisis, the COVID pandemic. We saw gold spike and silver drop. And recently, gold has gone up a significant amount and silver has been pretty stagnant. And so the gold-silver ratio is increasing in gold's favor. Something to pay attention to. Like I said, lots of reasons to be short-term bullish over these next couple weeks, maybe even couple months. But in my mind, my mindset is that the stock market has hit its 2025 all-time high, that the Dow Jones, the S&P, and the NASDAQ have all done that. Now we have seen a significant overcorrection in the last couple weeks here. And so again, many reasons for a short-term bounce. Or, this could actually be a V-shaped recovery, just like the COVID crash. But right now, I think the odds are more favorable to this idea that we would have a situation where we're going to continue to put in lower highs and lower lows in the S&P 500. But moving on, S&P earnings revisions are the worst they've been since COVID. This chart tracks the share of S&P companies with earnings estimates higher than 4 weeks ago, less the number with lower earnings forecasts divided by the total number of changes. That's quite a word salad there. What's the wording here? Lots of earnings revisions that are moving down, basically. So we'll see how this plays itself out, because, remember during COVID, here, what happened with COVID, the markets crashed. There were a lot of negative earnings revisions. And then we saw heavy doses of easing, of money printing all over the world. And those earnings revisions spiked. You can see January of 2021 here to, all throughout 2021, significant increases in earnings revisions. And you can see COVID, significant decreases. But what happened? They responded to that by printing lots and lots of money. Okay. So nothing to be too scared about right now. It's just something to keep in mind. We can see also, 2022, end of 2022, lots of negative earnings revisions, but the end of 2022 was closer to a bottom than a top. So we'll see. We'll see how that goes. Here's a much more bullish perspective from Guilherme Tavares. I don't think it's the same situation, but I imagine this, a blow-off top that whips out all the bears before the real secular bear market begins. Keep an open mind. Nothing is obvious here. So, nothing's obvious, but here's what it looked like from 1998 to 1999. We picture 1999 as the end of the roaring 90s, where the stock market went on an absolute tear, the bubble, the dot-com bubble. And could we be in a similar situation right now where we are in a dot-com bubble, similar situation with crypto? And I'm expecting that dot-com bubble with crypto to burst. But when, that's a little bit more difficult of a situation to analyze. But 1999, we had sort of a double bottom period here where we put in a lower high, lower low, and then that was it. And then had a significant rally to new all-time highs, a blow off top, and then after that, it was over in the stock market. And so I'm very open to this idea that with stocks and crypto, we would have a low volume blow off top where Bitcoin would hit a new all-time high and where altcoins would have a moment or a season. Right now, just like Guilherme here, Mr. Tavares, keep an open mind. Nothing is obvious here. My bias is more towards just a downtrend and not a low volume blow off top. But there's potential here. This is always in the back of my mind as far as I could see it. I could see us having a blow off top over the next few months here and then it being over. So we'll see. We're going to let the market lead us as always. Moving on, something that is kind of interesting to me. I hope it would be interesting to you. So it's extremely this is a decade-long play here, but it's something that is very much on my radar because Andrew Kang, if you don't know who he is, he's just been a killer over these last 5 or so years, okay? So it is extremely difficult for most people to conceptualize technological revolutions that create industries that are exponentially larger than currently exist. Multi-deca-trillion-dollar market caps. In 2006, before the iPhone came out, Apple was a $60 billion company, and no one would have believed. That's insane to me. Apple was a $60 billion company in 2006. No one would have believed that it would become the $3 trillion company that it is today, as that would be 10x larger than the largest company at that time, Exxon. Embodied intelligence will change the world as much as the smartphone or car. Jobs requiring physical labor will become a relic of the past. So we have iRobot here, but hopefully not how iRobot finished. But Andrew Kang, if you know anything about him, he's been very much ahead of the game for quite a while here. He is basically arguing that a lot of what we should be doing right now is thinking forward and looking into companies that are working on things like this. So what are things like this? What are companies that work on things like this? We have, here's a list of some: Boston Dynamics, Unitree, Figure AI, Tesla, Sanctuary AI, Agility, Apptronic, Fourier, 1X Technologies. I've only ever heard of one of these companies. If you had one guess, I'm sure you would be able to know which one I've heard of. I have no idea if any of these other ones are public, but I'm interested. With stocks, I am an acquirer, I am a buyer and a holder. And I am willing to buy and hold and DCA into any of these that are public, including Tesla. I mean, Tesla is a little bit different because of how volatile their price is. I'll take profits on Tesla, but it's just something to keep on your radar and something to very much look into and research as something that could provide phenomenal returns over the next decade. We'll see. It's something that I definitely want to look into. Okay, so anyway, Bitcoin's looking good right now, $86,272 as of the moment that I'm making this video. Now, I did say this in recent videos, we do have some resistance ahead. The 200-day moving average, the top of the daily Bollinger Bands. I am looking to open a short-term, very short-term short at that price point and see it put in hopefully a higher low. So higher low, who knows, maybe somewhere around $80,000, maybe a little higher than that. But like I've communicated in this video, lots of reasons to be short-term, at least short-term bullish. So we'll see where things go from here. But let's see what's trending. Fartcoin. Fartcoin is trending on DexScan. And we have some other trending coins. Ethereum, 1646. Tether's $1. XRP at $2.17. Binance, 589. Solana, 133. Dogecoin, 1606. Tron, 2487. Cardano, 64.32 cents. And you guys can see... You can see this for yourself, of course, on coinmarketcap.com. It's always interesting to look at these in real time and give any thoughts. There's nothing that sticks out. We are still in lower high territory with the total altcoin market cap. Would love to see that break out into a higher high or form a higher low. We'll see where we go from here. But anyway, that's all I have for today. I hope you have a wonderful day, a wonderful rest of your week, and I will most certainly be seeing you in another video.